The Finance Committee meets this morning for our first hearing on America's energy transformation since the Inflation Reduction Act became law. 2 years ago, almost to this day, the committee voted on the Clean Energy for America Act in a room just a few doors away. In writing that legislation, our lodestar was developing a technology-neutral, market-oriented energy policy in which the more you reduce carbon emissions, the bigger your tax savings. The Senate Finance Committee, over a 100-year period, has never done anything approaching this in terms of energy policy. The old status quo, big breaks for big oil, and major uncertainty for clean energy was holding our economy back, and it was stifling innovation. Since Democrats passed the IRA, there has been an explosion of new investment announced in clean energy projects around the country. Wind energy, solar, electric vehicle manufacturing, energy storage, just a few. So far, those announcements add up to nearly $250 billion of private investment coming off the sidelines. Nearly 150,000 jobs created, many of which do not require a college degree. One new analysis broke the announcement down by state. Here are a few examples relevant to the committee. North Carolina, $5.6 billion. South Carolina, $11 billion. Ohio, $7.8 billion. A significant portion of which is solar manufacturing that our colleague from Ohio, Senator Brown, battled for to make sure that the bill would include it. Texas, $5 billion. Tennessee, $5.6 billion. Michigan, $20 billion. These projects are taking over from sea to shining sea. They have exceeded expectations. The investments help America cut carbon emissions. They help America prevent the worst climate disasters. They help fire up the economic engine for whole communities where the shovels are going into the ground. A big part of our effort in the IRA was giving a special boost to coal towns and other communities built around extractive industries. The status quo had failed them. Plants shuttered, and the people in those communities were too often overlooked and forgotten. When this committee wrote the Inflation Reduction Act, people in coal towns had no bigger champion than Senator Casey. He worked to create a special program that we're going to discuss today called Energy Communities. With Energy Communities, there's a bonus incentive to drive investment in struggling coal towns and areas with similar histories. My seatmate here, Senator Stabenow, ensured that those communities would get an extra boost for advanced manufacturing. And I will just tell my colleagues, over the 10-year odyssey from the time I went to West Virginia at Senator Manchin's request, Senator Stabenow was out in front on this issue of advanced manufacturing, and it is in the bill because of her leadership. Senator Cortez Masto made sure the law would also attract investment to communities with areas known as brownfields, which are often the polluted remnants of old industrial facilities. This work continues a long-standing effort by Finance Committee Democrats to stand up and go to bat for coal miners and their families. Senator Brown and Senator Casey fought for years to shore up the miners' health care and pensions. Senator Warner and Senator Carper were also co-sponsors of the legislation that got that done. So colleagues, the IRA is major progress on clean energy that's just beginning to take off now that the rules pertaining to energy communities were recently put in place. The catch is, House Republicans want to repeal nearly all of the energy policies in the Inflation Reduction Act. That's what the McCarthy plan does. In my view, and I want to be clear about it, that McCarthy plan is a major act of economic self-sabotage. That's because the majority of the investments announced since the IRA became law are going to states represented by Republican senators. Now, I'll wrap up with just a couple of comments about this debate. I've heard members say that IRA policies on energy were unnecessary because these clean energy investments would have happened on their own. The reality is the level of clean energy investment and job creation would not be anywhere near as high without the Inflation Reduction Act. That's because the old system was holding back innovation. It was holding back our opportunity to have this extraordinary investment wave. Other claims have been that the IRA is somehow a threat to America's energy security. Off base again. The IRA is all about lowering carbon emissions and creating jobs with clean, made-in-America energy. The U.S. will be less reliant on oil and gas. And what that means is America will be less vulnerable if Vladimir Putin or other adversaries of the United States decide they want to create chaos and hike up energy prices. 2 years ago, in my view, and I'll close with this, members of the Senate Finance Committee showed real guts in being willing to cast the votes that launched this energy transformation. Even as we walked out of the committee room, people said, that's pretty amazing what happened in the Senate Finance Committee, but I don't know if that's going to become law. And yet, what this committee did was to cast the tough votes. This committee took on the special interests almost 2 years ago, and now the Inflation Reduction Act is proving that you can cut carbon emissions, create jobs and opportunity for Americans all at the same time. So I thank our witnesses. I think we're going to have a good hearing. I think it'll be spirited. So we'll have a chance to do what we do best in this country, is make sure that in our land of freedom, everybody gets a chance to be heard. Senator Crapo.